Hi everyone, and welcome to this new episode of our weekly community call. I am Leonardo Grasso, and today I will MC this call. Before we start, please, I want to invite you to write down your name under the join section. Thank you. So, I want to start with this week highlights. The first highlight is that we are preparing the Falco Release 0.24. We planned to release it tomorrow. This is a huge release since we skipped the last month release. I want to mention just some features. One big feature is the Unix socket support for the gRPC server. We also introduced the bidirectional gRPC support, so the gRPC API has changed. There are also a lot of fixes and improvements on rules and several bug fixing. If someone wants to add some context or more information about this release, maybe Leonardo, Lorenzo, Chris, please feel free to talk.
I can add, I'm adding a link right now.
Okay.
I don't know why my paste isn't working. There's a link to the release. I just wanted to bring up, so last month we decided to push back last month's release to this month, which means we're still releasing on a monthly cadence. And one of the things that I think is going to be a theme for both this release and the next one is going to be looking at milestones and the issues and doing future planning. So I think this is I just wanted to give everybody a pat on the back and say good job for this one and keeping the milestone updated and keeping the release together and working together as a community on cutting this. This, in my mind, is one of the most feature-rich and important releases that we've done yet as a community. So good job, everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Also, maybe you wanted to add something regarding the next release. I think you added this point to the highlights.
Yeah, I added it to the agenda as well.
Okay.
As a community, I think we're finally at the point where we need to start planning what features the Falco maintainers want to tackle for each of the upcoming milestones. So we can get more into this now or more into this later. But what I wanted to do was set up our first planning call. And the first one, of course, can be the call that talks about the calls moving forward. But I guess just quick show of hands with everyone here. Has anyone ever joined an open source or like the Kubernetes, either retro or the release planning calls before?
Not me.
Okay. They're pretty straightforward and just give folks who are both consuming and vending the open source tool an opportunity to voice interest or loosely commit to starting to put work towards getting a feature towards the next release. And it just helps the community keep a roadmap together that's updated. So I would like to start a call for us for the next release, which is going to be very important because this next one is going to be our last release before KubeCon Amsterdam, which, if we follow the pattern, will be happening at the exact same time. So what do we think is best for the way to kick this planning call off? In the past, when we looked at the build infrastructure and some of the other features, we did like a breakout group. Do we want to just schedule a one-off meeting and record it and share our notes maybe next week or the week after sometime? Does anybody have any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we already talked about this in some calls, and maybe someone proposed to do that a week after the release, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So that would mean next week sometime. So if we want, I can pick an action item to email the mailing list, and maybe we can do next Wednesday or next Thursday sometime in the morning. That makes sense for both our friends in Europe and our friends here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, the next point is you again, but before I let you talk, I want just to give you a quick update. I released the Falco CTL version 0.1 right today, just to freeze the current state of it. Although there are some minor issue on it, but it's working. And I want to also let you know that I had started to refactoring it in another branch, just to modernize it a bit and also to restructure the code. But I was blocked because we missed some features on Falco, mainly about the scope of the artifact that now had been fixed. So now I can continue, and as usual, I volunteer to take care of it. That being said, please add your thoughts.
I think the only thing I would want to add was just to add some clarity around the use case and why I brought it up. We had somebody in the Falco Slack. They've been more and more active. They started to mention that the documentation on falco.org requires, or I guess I shouldn't say requires. It suggests that you use Falco CTL to generate the TLS certificates and cert material. And until we had a release, the only way to get that logic was to build the Go binary on your own, which isn't the worst thing in the world. A ton of Go projects do that. I just think that as a project that spans multiple programming languages, having a statically linked binary was pretty low-hanging fruit for us to get TLS out of the box. So yeah, if we can do some refactoring and get the TLS stuff figured out, I think we're in good faith.
The TLS stuff is already working. For the refactoring, I'm working on it. Of course, if someone wants to help, is welcome, as usual. Okay, next point, it's again you, Chris. Follow up on unique PR.
Sure. So to follow up on the user space PR, I talked with some of the other maintainers a little bit this morning. Basically, I wanted to just propose that we can add some type of experimental flag to just get the functionality baked into the Falco CLI user space component without having to tackle the entirety of supporting the PDIG or the ptrace implementation on top of that. And I think Leo and Lore are both on the call, and they had some really good ideas on how to decouple this and make this work. I don't know if they want to jump in and say anything about their thoughts here.
Yeah, specifically in the discussion before, an idea came in mind, and I wanted to share it with everyone in the community so that we can make a decision together. The idea is that we detach, I mean, effectively it already is. The flag that we are trying to get into is called user space, and means that we have a user space implementation of our drivers, which is actually just a contract to send the data to Falco user space. So I think we should detach this concept of having the flag and the user space implementation in Falco from the actual implementation of the driver. In this way, we can release this now and treat this as a stable feature while we still do more iteration on PDIG, and possibly we develop other user space implementations, or we have different ideas, or anyone develops the user space implementation using the same contract. So in my opinion, the two things can be treated as two separate things, even from, how to say, from a release and maintenance point of view and support point of view, so that we still answer questions on, what's the format, how the flag works and these kind of things. But we are not yet ready to answer questions on, hey, PDIG is not working for me or doesn't work on this specific system, because PDIG is didn't yet reach the graduated status in the Falco project. So this is the only idea I had. Otherwise, what we have to do is to wait until PDIG is ready and release the flag and release the Falco part only when it is. Considering also that the code will be already there, we just will not have the flag. What do I mean? That we already have in Falco the code that does all the stuff. It's just that we don't have a way to enable it. We don't have the flag. So effectively, we are discussing a very small thing. It's just a matter of concept. How we want to deal with this. We want to deal with this as two separate entities, or as a single thing, right? This is sorry if it's a bit intricate, it's a bit complicated, but it's the best way I can explain this.
You did a very good job.
Yeah.
Let me just add one thing to what Lore said that we discussed earlier. I agree into releasing it as soon tomorrow when I release Falco 24. When I write, usually together with the release, we write a little blog post to present features to things. I would like, Chris, maybe if you can help me on that, some help in writing 3-4 lines to express what we just said, because it's true, it's a little thing that we are discussing to merge or not. But I also think that it's very important to communicate it in the right way to the community, to communicate its status, and that's an experimental thing about a contract to use user space instrumentation tools. So
yeah,
and also to document how to work with it, how to experiment with it, because I didn't see any document explanation. There are just comments around, but it's not easy for a first-time user to understand how to try it, how to just try it. This is my 2 cents.
okay.
In a general way, I tend to echo Lorenzo's point of view here. In my opinion, what we are adding on the Falco side is essentially an API.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the input and output API. It's sort of a different API and contract that we're adding to the tool. And the responsibility of the Falco team is including this API and making sure it's stable. And then we know that there is already an implementation ongoing that I hope will make progress pretty quickly, but we are pretty sure that there will be more than one, at least maybe more implementations of this contract. So some will be part of the Falco umbrella and the Falco project. Some won't, and I think decoupling and treating it as a contract and not as an end-to-end feature is really the thing to do here, and also relieves the team from having to support something that is not at the core of Falco. I see this a little bit like the Prometheus or the Sidekick. They are tightly coupled. Better if they're hosted, but this is an API. So Falco, the tool, is concerned about one side of this.
I agree.
I agree too. I was just asking for Chris help in clarifying this concept for tomorrow release blog post.
Okay. Yeah, I can write a few sentences. I'll try to think of a good analogy here. I look at it like Falco is releasing a stable contract that we can then use to develop and use other tools with. Like the same way that you would use curl test your API server. We're just creating a new feature for Falco that allows people to do other things, and separating the implementation from the API makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we all agree that this is a contract and not an implementation, we will need to go to the pull request of the user space implementation and state that this is the decision that we make, if everyone agrees, and just go ahead and match that and document as much as we can the features of the website.
PR is 1195, Leo. That's all.
Sì,
One.
sorry,
One
I
wine.
think
One
I
one.
think it's here.
Yeah, it should be there.
Uh,
No, because
okay.
no, because it was
Okay. Just a
moved this
moment.
one
1195.
95.
Okay.
It's green because we already made some change. There are some needed changes, so we just need to state the decision that the community took here.
Okay. Can you report the decision in the comment so I can continue with the call?
I can do it, no worries.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will add also the link here. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, can I continue? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Do we have owners who are going to update the PR and get that merged in before the release tomorrow?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, next point in the agenda is about migrating other Helm charts into our centralized Falco security charts repository. Just to add a bit of context about this, currently, let me show you the repository. Currently, this repository is the source of our Helm chart repository that is published under this URL. And we have just one chart included. That's, sorry, wrong link. At the moment, we have just one chart that is the Falco chart ones. Under our organization, we have other charts. The two that I remember are the Falco Sidekick one and the Falco Exporter chart that I maintain. And after a long discussion about how to move these charts inside this repo, we considered a different option. One option was to create a complex automation in order to leave chart source in their repos and then release them into the Falco security charts repository. The other option that I think, I believe we all agree, is just to move charts source directly into the Falco security charts repository. So we don't have to deal with the complexity of keep in sync keep in sync different repository. Regarding Falco regarding Falco Exporter, I planned to move the Nchart source after the Falco release, I think later this week. I believe it will be the same for the for the Falco sidekick. Maybe Thomas, you want to add something about it?
This is the same idea from my side. I'm planning to release a new version soon with a new output from community for Azure Event Hub. So after this release of Falco Sidekicks, I think I will update the Helm chart directly into the main Falco charts repository.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I don't know if Spencer wants to agree to add some more thoughts.
No, just, I mean, I feel a little bad because I think last week we had a different idea and now we're moving here, but I do think it makes sense to keep all we have a repository called charts. It should have the charts in them. It's like pretty expected from the users. I do feel for the developers who are going to have to sort of massage 2 repos instead of just one. But like I said in one of my comments, right, if we can take that responsibility on the developer side and have an easier, more straightforward process for the users, I think that's probably a win for growing the user base.
Yes, thank you, Spencer. Anyway, this issue that at this point I wanted to mark as won't fix summarize everything we discussed and the decision we took. I think if nobody disagree, we will proceed in this direction.
I think it's okay. Can you explain a little bit more about the pulling the charts into a different repo really quick?
Yeah, really quick, it's a bit hard, but basically the point is this. How to explain? At the end of the process, what we need is just an artifact with basically the TGZ of the chart that can be packaged using Helm package command. But to produce this artifact on another repo, we need some automation in place that can be complex to implement. In theory, each repo should have a way to trigger the process to release the chart. That could be a git tag or whatever else. Should produce the artifact in its CI pipeline. The artifact should be published, should be uploaded at some URL. For example, there is a tool called the chart release provided by Helm that can do this. It works in a similar way of Go Releaser. Basically, it uploads the artifact into the GitHub release.
Okay.
After that, there is another, it's the same tool, but another command that is needed to update the index. The index lives in the central repo. So for example, during the CI process, our bot Poiana should move the index in the other repo, merge the index with the current one, and finally commit the index. Of course, if everything is inside the same repo, this process it's a bit simpler and currently is already implemented. If this process is spread across multiple repos, there are some caveats like concurrency, locking, and things like that. And also every maintainer should deal with a part of this pipeline in its own repo, in their own repo. For this reason, as Spencer said, but also Thomas, we decided to avoid this complexity just because we had two Nchart right now. And
yeah, so right. So last week we kind of thought we'll keep the Helm charts in close to the code that they manage. So the Falco Sidekick Helm chart will stay in the Falco Sidekick repo.
exactly.
The Falco Exporter Helm chart will stay in the Falco Exporter repo. and we'll wrap it all together with automation and shell scripts, which is what Leo Grasso, most of this pull request is about, or issue is about. Since then, our thinking has sort of evolved, and we're kind of saying, look, the smart thing to do is just to keep all of the Helm charts in one big repo. And that's what we're going to do. There's some costs to that, mostly on the developer side, but the thinking is that charts will just have a bunch of directories. They have a Falco directory, a Sidekick directory, an exporter directory, and that's where the charts will live, and that's where they'll be maintained, and that's where users can go grab them if they want to run them from source. So that's what we're thinking and we're going to do.
Exactly. It's just a trade-off.
And that's going to enable an easier release process for us, as well as a few other things it's going to basically make it more convenient for users.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's harder for developers. It's easier for users.
Exactly. Actually, for the user, there is not so much difference, just because at the end the user has just to add this repo in both solutions.
Well, I mean, yes, but what users are going to do is find we didn't expose some tunable, right?
Yeah.
Like users, I know I pretty much always end up running random Helm charts from source because there's something that isn't exposed, right? And having that all coupled in one area is, I think, better.
Yeah, that's correct. Anyway, after we move our charts here, then user at the end just need to do this command and then can install the Falco Sidekick or the Falco Exporter chart, like as the Falco charts.
Grasso, I have a question. Can I?
Tell me.
Maybe you already told, but I missed it. The change that I did on Poiana about the GitHub Pages branch of charts is still needed, or basically this process does not need it?
It's still needed because we have the release automation in place into the charts, and basically it's needed because Poiana needs to commit into Java pages.
I just wanted to double check it to be sure, or otherwise I would have reverted it.
Just a reminder for you, also for me, we tested it, but we haven't tested it with a real release. And maybe we can do this together after the Falco release, because after the Falco release, I'm planning to release another chart version.
Okay. Yeah,
thank you.
I just want to be sure because that change made me a bit nervous. So
I know, me too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all for this conversation about Helm. But I think it's the last one for a while. Okay, next point in the agenda. Spencer, it's you again.
Yeah, I probably could have thrown this in announcements. Do you want to click that link real fast?
Yeah, sure.
So it turns out this fellow named Juju4 has a pretty slick little Ansible chart or Ansible playbook. If anyone isn't aware, Ansible is a configuration management tool. I think that, you know, it's always good when there's an ecosystem of people writing stuff around the thing we're working on. As we transition out of saying run it as a Kubernetes application and towards run it as a systemd unit file, here's a deb, here's an RPM, the integration point that people are really going to reach for is going to be things like this. It's going to be Ansible, it's going to be Puppet, it's going to be whatever the future of those technology type things is, Chef, I guess. Which doesn't mean I don't think we need to do anything fancy like try to bring it into the Falco security project or whatever, but we should try to be available and think about these as really solid user stories, because I think realistically this is where people are gonna, especially people with scale, are gonna end up looking to integrate our stuff. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of this. I got a pull request into it, which I have to update. Go ahead.
Is this in the third parties index on falco.org yet?
No, I should add it to that or something like that.
Yeah.
This was, Chris, we removed it when we refactored during we were doing the reshape of documentation after the Falco scope artifacts part 1 proposal.
No, I think it's still there. If you go to falco.org and click on third party, I think it's listed there.
Okay, we'll check.
Double check.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with Spencer here. So more than just Ansible, it's Terraform, it's Ansible, it's Chef, it's Packer. It's anytime people are going to be mutating the operating system level, those types of tools, I think we're going to see.
Yeah, it's there. My fault.
Is there?
Sweet. All right, we're already documented.
Okay. But it's always good to announce it again so people are aware about it. Thanks,
I've also
Spencer, for that.
used this thing and played with it. So if somebody rolls up in Slack asking questions, feel free to tap me on the shoulder. I can try to look at it. So, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
What was
Cool.
the, can you just share what the experience was like for you?
Oh gosh, the thing that's frustrating is Ansible has a sort of a Ruby gems like thing. You push and then you push up to Ansible Galaxy, and then there's tooling to like Ansible Galaxy pull module name, and the Ansible whatever's up in the Galaxy thing isn't tracking with Git. So the thing that was on Galaxy, I'm looking at the GitHub thinking this should work. And then I'm running commands from Ansible Galaxy, and it's not working because they're just out of sync, which was pretty frustrating. But other than that, it went pretty well. You have to change a couple things, but no big deal.
Yeah. Also, I noticed that maybe we have to do a PR on this to update this link.
Yeah, I think I just put that PR in. There's a couple places it still says Dreos around and stuff like that.
Okay. This is a PR made by you. Okay, perfect. Cool.
We can move on. We don't have to do what.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. Next point, Lorenzo. CLang 10.11 support for BPF Pro.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell everyone that don't yet have a solution. If you all look at the issue that I didn't link because I'm a very bad person, there's a very good explanation on why this is happening, and there are some very long...
Sorry, Lorenzo, what's the issue?
Let me check.
If you remember it.
No, I don't remember now, but I can search.
Okay.
It's 1251. So I've been trying to debug this a bit, then also talking with Leonardo. We agreed that this problem can be, it's very serious, but that can be pushed back a little bit in the future when we have time, because we are not forced to compile with Clang 9 or 10 in any one of our environments yet, because we control that with the Docker image, and we also can have the pre-built, and we control that too. So I'm still investigating, but I'm putting this as not as a top priority now. Also because it's a very long process of understanding how all the different bytecode branches go, and to understand why the jumps are jumping out of range. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that. If anyone has any questions. No, we can go to the next one. I've been adding some new ciscos to our driver, specifically Nchart 2. Now I'm also working on execv8. Adding new ciscos very often when the kernel releases them, it's very important so that we can keep our engine more robust and secure. This will become even more important now that we have user space instrumentation. If anyone has any question, if anyone wants to understand how do we add new ciscos, or anyone is interested in understanding how this code looks like, because it's the actual core of our instrumentation, I will be happy to take a call and explain. that you can get up to speed that adding all the unsupported ciscos. What's next?
It's you again.
It's me again. Release changelog. Yeah, I've been putting together that link on my web server where I generate our release changelog from GitHub using the tool that Leonardo created, which is on his GitHub. I just, basically run that tool and generate a web page so that whoever is releasing can avoid getting the tool on their command line and generating and everything. They can just go here and copy, which I think speeds up the release process a lot because you don't have to figure out that part every time. I just wanted to highlight that this might be in our official process, like it is, and I really like that here there's my website link. So I just want to tell everyone, if anyone has time to add this to our website, it will be a lot better.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
And
also my website is not very professional. So I think it's better if we change it. That's it. Next is still me? No.
No,
Nice.
it's Leonardo.
So basically, following an issue opened by Leo Grasso, I decided to finally improve, I don't know how to, but basically do some changes to the integration test runner and document it step by step. I did some changes to the CMakes for the integration tests to the script, and basically this PR is ready to be merged in. But I decide since the release of Falco 024 is tomorrow, and I will avoid to risk the release for changing the integration test suite the day before. I just postponed this to the next release in August. But I put the link here to update everyone that now, as soon as this will be merged, we have better documentation and a better integration test runner.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you for this.
You're
And I
welcome.
agree to postpone this for the next release. I also want to say thank you to you and Lorenzo for these two tools that are very useful during the release, and also for adding the new syscall
That you
is,
report,
yeah, especially this that is missing on a rule. There is a to-do written down by about this. Thank you. Okay, the next point is Chris about ARM update.
Okay. So this is like me hacking on the weekends, best support, but somebody asked about it in the Falco Slack this morning, so I figured I would just share so people know the current status with ARM and how things are going. Basically, I think the problem here is we can compile everything, but we cannot compile the driver because it's tightly coupled to 64-bit architecture. I think there's a workaround where we can change how we're doing some of the 64-bit division, which I wrote a little sentence there that I would like to test out. And then this also goes into if and when we decide to support ARM, we need to start looking at the difference between the different chips and the different boards people are using. ARM v7 is 32-bit and ARM v8 is 64-bit, and then you can always install a 32-bit operating system on a 64-bit chip. So we just need to be clear about what we want to do here. I haven't heard any production use cases for ARM yet, but I do think it's important just to continue to notice how the hardware industry is evolving and continually trying to run our code to see how close we are to getting it running on ARM. So that's the update there. If anyone watching this later on the internet is interested, I have an image that ships with all of the dependencies and Falco checked out and the driver code, and it's got all of my notes and everything in it. I'm happy to share that image with you, and you can flash it onto a few different boards, and you can replicate what I'm experiencing on my end. But yeah, that's the update for ARM.
Great. And thank you for sharing this, Chris.
Sure.
Okay. If I don't know if someone has other question, wants to add something. No, I think no. Okay, so
I'm just surprised that the only problem that we have is that division.
Let me rephrase this. That was the first problem I noticed.
Okay.
If you remember on a previous version of the driver, I think 0.22, we were able to get it compiling and running, but it was seg faulting intermittently. And again, this is just going to be an exercise of, as more and more people are interested in it, being able to replicate these environments is going to be important. So just sharing.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris, again. Okay, before we close the call, last thing we have to do is to decide the next MC. Someone want to be the next MC?
Let me look at the calendar really quick.
Okay.
One moment. So we have 2 more calls until most of Italy goes on vacation.
Yep.
So if we want to get through the next 2 calls without me doing the MC, I can take the majority of the calls in August to give folks a vacation and keep up with things.
It's okay for me. And okay, so do you want someone else for the next week, and then you will MC the other 2 calls?
That would be, yes, that would be best for me. But if not, you can feel free to add my name, and I can take it over for next week as well.
Okay, let me check the calendar one moment in case I can propose myself again, also as backup if someone. Okay, it's the 22nd. Okay, I can propose me and you as backup. Is that okay for you?
Yep, and then I will make sure that I'm ready to do a few in a row during August.
Okay. Okay. I think we did everything. Just to remind to you all that tomorrow Leodido and me will release the 0.24. I think we have done. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
And have a good day. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. See you, everyone.